Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Ellis. On behalf of Darwin German and the team at Darwin German Real Estate Investments, I'd like to welcome you. I'll more fully introduce myself and share the agenda for today with you momentarily, but before I go even that far, my friends, I'd like to be very direct, very straightforward with you, and to tell you that today I'm going to share with you the details of an exceptional value capturing multifamily real estate investment opportunity. While the vast majority of the capital requirement for this project has already been filled, and I will thus not be able to invite all of you to participate, nevertheless, those among you who do qualify and who are prepared to act expeditiously will find the next 20 to 30 minutes together to be both appropriately sobering and deeply, deeply encouraging. So let's begin with two numbers that I ask you to hold in mind. Those numbers are $297 billion and $1.2 billion. Just remember those numbers. They are deeply relevant for what you'll hear today and indeed to any investment decision you'll make during this time of economic recovery in which we now find ourselves. So I'll give you some powerful context for both of those numbers in a moment. Now, my friends, the Darwin German real estate team insists on one thing above all else, and that's transparency. And so we refuse to be so one-sided as to fail to address the very sizable elephant in the room, known as the tremendous uncertainty which lately has come to us in the form of COVID-19, riots, political unrest, financial market volatility, and more specifically, the horrendous impact that uncertainty has had on our economy. My friends, our economy is at a crossroads situation, and I'll bet you've noticed it yourself. On the one hand, in the last several months, the United States economy has truly crumbled under the weight of the coronavirus shutdown. Not a single person under the sound of my voice has ever experienced anything like what we've seen. The massive unemployment numbers, the huge hit to our GDP, the tremendous social shock, and the economic carnage we've seen in 2020 has literally been something that was unthinkable even a single day before it actually happened. On the other hand, it's deeply clear that this is no ordinary recession. In fact, it's not an economic recession at all, but a political one. A recession produced entirely as a result of what will likely prove to be a once-in-a-lifetime and relatively brief shock to our economy. And that's where the opportunity is that I want to share with you today. You see, the American economy, without any doubt whatsoever, is showing every sign of wanting to snap back very hard and very quickly to its former glory. Just look at the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, both of which have already re-achieved almost all of their all-time highs just since the coronavirus terror began. Just look at the jobs report for May, a report that shocked the world and was the single best monthly jobs report the United States had ever seen, followed by the jobs report for June, nearly twice as good as the one for May, showing over 7 million new jobs created in just 60 days. Just look at the retail sales report for May, a month in which most of the country was actually still shut down, and yet retail sales for May of 2020 were higher than retail sales for May of 2019 when COVID-19 wasn't even on the scene. That's nothing short of astonishing and a testament to the power of our economy. So there's tremendous opportunity to ride the wave back up and in very quick fashion because this economic recovery is showing every sign of wanting to roar back in rapid fashion. You know, famed investment guru Warren Buffett said it totally right when years ago he made the comment, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Because you see, right now, despite those notes of strong hope and confidence for our economy that I just shared with you, the prevailing attitude among millions upon millions of Americans remains very clearly fearful, and with good reason. Jobs are coming back, but we're still in a deep hole. The economy is showing signs of promise, but we're barely even into the recovery with a long way still to go. It's a strange dichotomy where on one side is the lingering economic devastation wrought by coronavirus and political unrest. And on the other side is the impatient rumbling of an economy that clearly wants to erupt into great wealth for our country. And in that gap between the two ends of the economic spectrum is where your opportunity lies right now. And it's a window that will not be open for long or for very many investors as we now return to one of the pieces of information I shared with you earlier, $297 billion. That is a tremendous amount of money. It's more than Amazon brought in last year, more than ExxonMobil brought in last year, more money than Apple brought in last year. It's just a shocking amount of money. So why is it relevant? Well, according to this article in the Wall Street Journal, that's how much money was being raised in April of this year alone by private investment funds seeking to capitalize on opportunities created by the coronavirus. That's nearly $300 billion being raised in a single month, a huge number from the world's savviest investors, because they know without any doubt that this kind of uncertainty is precisely the kind of fear that Buffett told us all to watch for as a signal to jump in with both feet. Now, again, on behalf of the Darwin German real estate team, I am Brian Ellis. You can find my writing published online in Forbes, TheStreet.com, Entrepreneur. I've done a lot of work for Motley Fool. And if you happen to be a tax lawyer, you may have taken my course about self-directed IRA law that I teach through the University of California. I also happen to have a vast background in real estate investing and spend a lot of time as a featured speaker at major investment conferences all over the world. So, my friends, let's begin our deep dive into the very impressive project before you today, known as Oakview, with 5 rather shocking and confidence-inspiring facts. Fact number 1, investors in this project are projected to enjoy a whopping 23.8% internal rate of return, an exceptional return made possible by the extraordinary amount of net cash flow being generated right now, today, by this property. You'll hear much more about that momentarily. But first is fact number 2. Imagine if you could make an investment and the tax benefits alone, totally separate from cash flow, equity appreciation, and everything else. What if just the tax benefits alone were enough to create the kind of return that you dream of? Get ready, my friends. That's the reality you're about to enjoy. And fact number 3, the Darwin German management team for Oakview is putting their money where their mouth is on this project. This project requires a total of $37 million. Of that, the Darwin German management team, they have already, just the management team, they have already contributed or arranged for the vast majority, $23.5 million, before accepting any investor capital. That brings the total capital availability in this project down to only $13.5 million, which is great because that would mean that we'd need only 135 investors to participate at the minimum level of $100,000 each. But in fact, we do not have 135 spaces for new investors to participate because almost instantly, another whopping $6 million was committed by a highly desirable private equity partner, about whom I'll tell you more in a bit, bringing our total capital availability all the way down to only $7.5 million, which equates to capacity to accept approximately 75 investors at $100,000 each. And yet still, the demand for this project is far from being exhausted, as within days of notifying his existing clients, over $5.5 million more dollars have been committed from Darwin's existing clients, who have all invested with him previously and know just how high quality this project really is. What that means is that as a practical matter, we need only another $2 million to fully subscribe this project. That means we have capacity for an absolute maximum of 20 investors, and probably only 10 to 15 by the time some of them invest over $100,000 for the minimum, which is very common. The bottom line is that this is a particularly exceptional opportunity for a number of reasons you're about to discover. So I suspect you're going to be overwhelmingly intrigued by what you learn in the next few minutes as I share with you just how special this opportunity is for well-qualified individual investors, maybe including you. But what this is not is just another multifamily investment opportunity, and I'll demonstrate that to you rather conclusively. In fact, imagine if you could have the real estate equivalent of a T-bill that offers a 23.8% expected return, and that the asset upon which it's all based is a virtually brand new Class A multifamily property situated directly in one of the most in-demand locations anywhere. Well, that's why today's opportunity is really in a class all its own. Now, again, for those of you who have additionally joined us in the last couple of minutes, and there are a lot of you on the line today, thank you. My name is Brian Ellis, and I'm here just as a guide to introduce you to this project. So now let's take a look at the broad strokes of this opportunity right after I share this quick legal notice with you. I'm not licensed as an attorney, accountant, or CPA, nor do I hold any other professional licenses, and I'm not providing information to you on such a basis. The details in this webinar may differ from those in the pro forma, the private placement documents, or other documentation. I do not warrant the correctness or completeness of the information herein, as only the team at Darwin German Real Estate Investments are able to do so, and I am not a member of that team. It is your responsibility to make independent decisions without regard to anything I say during this presentation. Seek your own licensed counsel who is qualified to make recommendations based on your situation. Finally, while my participation should not be construed as an endorsement or recommendation to participate in this project, I do sincerely believe this project to be very worthy of serious consideration for qualified investors. Okay, now that we've made the lawyers happy, let's move on. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to take the next 90 seconds or so and quickly go over why savvy investors broadly agree that the asset class of multifamily real estate is objectively superior to other asset classes, whether your point of reference is stocks or single-family houses or bonds or anything else. And then we get to the good stuff and answer the question of why Oakview. I'll tell you how the project works, the deeply objective basis for why it's so attractive, and exactly what you should expect as an investor partner in this project, and then we'll wrap up with a word about qualifications to participate. Now, as we cover those topics, I'll be sharing with you the coronavirus connection as well, both why Oakview is a perfect hedge against and exactly the right way to actually benefit from the terror that COVID-19 has inflicted on the world in recent weeks. And a quick note, you may have noticed that there is a facility for you to ask questions during this webinar, and I encourage you to do exactly that. When we reach the end of the presentation in just a few minutes from now, I'll gladly make sure your questions are answered at that time, but you're welcomed to ask those questions at any time between now and then. So very briefly, why multifamily investing? Look, in a word, well-executed multifamily is the everything asset class. It's really irrational to argue that multifamily is anything but an extraordinary asset class because even ordinary multifamily investments routinely produce everything you want as an investor, like equity appreciation, like cash flow, like solid tax benefits. That's not to mention the potential to use leverage in the form of debt financing, which means that every dollar invested can go much, much farther. There's a reason that once people taste the potential of real estate, and particularly multifamily real estate, then stocks, mutual funds, and all of the volatility of Wall Street quickly loses its luster. The overwhelming reality is this: real estate is the asset class upon which real wealth for today and real generational wealth is built. But while it's inarguable that even typical real estate investments offer tremendously higher odds of success than virtually any other asset class, still, it can't be said that the project before you today is merely ordinary. It's far beyond that. And now I'll tell you exactly why Oakview is different, and different in some really substantive ways. The difference with Oakview begins at the top with Darwin German himself. Now look, in case you're not familiar with Darwin, you need to know the basic facts about him, and then I'll tell you why he's been so tremendously successful at picking out great projects over the years. So overall, Darwin has well over 30 years of experience in real estate, focused almost entirely in multifamily real estate. Just since 2008, Darwin has run 30 separate syndications like Oakview. He's not a newbie putting together his first or second deal, far from it. The best, most successful real estate brokers know that when Darwin German commits to a deal, that deal gets done. And from one perspective, it's not hard for him. I mean, think of it this way. Statistically, if you invest in one of Darwin's projects, there's an 80% probability you'll invest in another one. Think about that. It only makes sense. This guy's track record is overwhelmingly profitable. In fact, last year, in 2019 alone, Darwin paid out over $13.2 million to his investors, and even more in 2018, a whopping $15.3 million after having had a big and profitable exit that year. And should you have the opportunity to participate in Oakview, that's the level of managerial and operational excellence which you can very reasonably expect. And all of that points to the one central reality of why Darwin is able to get the cream of the crop deals, even today when competition is so fierce. And that reason is quite simple. Brokers call Darwin first. He routinely gets first pick of great opportunities before those deals are ever put on the market. Many people claim to have access to off-market deals, but if you know Darwin, you know it's true. Just think about it. What do the best connected, most successful real estate brokers want? They want closed deals. That's how they get paid. And they know from firsthand experience with him and from his 30-year reputation in the industry for closing deals, they know that when Darwin German says he's going to do a deal, it gets done. And you, my friends, as investor partners with Darwin, well, you reap the benefits of his exceptional access to the best pre-market deals, just like Oakview. But let's not kid ourselves. The harsh truth is that most of what crosses Darwin's desk are the typical run-of-the-mill multifamily syndication deals we've all seen a million times. It's almost as if these deals match some sort of cookie-cutter formula that the sponsor learned at a real estate seminar. You know what I'm talking about. You're probably being pitched on several of those deals by other sponsors right now. There's just nothing exciting or inspiring about them, but that is not the case with Oakview. How's this for a backstory? Imagine you're in Darwin's shoes. Someone reaches out to you with news of an apartment complex that's for sale in an incredibly desirable market. The complex is called Oakview. And even after just a quick review, Darwin instantly sees that unlike those run-of-the-mill multifamily deals, Oakview is different. It's special. This one is worth taking seriously. Why so special? Well, it comes down to 4 clear reasons. Reason number 1, Oakview is already wildly profitable, already netting over $2 million a year from its 270 units without doing anything to it at all. You can't do much better than strong profit from day number 1, but it does get better because reason number 2, Oakview is, for all practical purposes, brand new. It was built in 2018. It's in immaculate condition. There are no deferred maintenance issues. There are no upgrades required. This is a spectacular and beautiful Class A property that requires nothing. It is right now a glittering jewel of cash flow. But if this opportunity is already deeply into net profit, and it's basically brand new and actually needs no major improvements of any sorts, then how could this possibly represent a good opportunity? Well, that's a very good question because there's no way to add value to it, right? My friends, this is far better than a value add project. In fact, this speaks to the 3rd big reason to take Oakview very seriously. It's because it's a value capture project. You see, versus the price that Darwin is paying, he's getting tremendous, overwhelming value on day number 1. It's not a matter of opinion, it's simple math. You see, the price per unit for Oakview's 270 units in this deal is $137,000 each per unit, all in, including everything. Now you have to compare that to the $185,000 plus average, which is the typical replacement cost for the same unit. That's right. Darwin has acquired this property at a whopping $48,000 per unit below replacement cost. That means that as a practical matter, if someone else wants to build a new complex to compete nearby with Oakview, they'd have to pay $48,000 plus more per unit, making it a near certainty that additional competition won't likely arise in Oakview's area anytime soon. And what may be the biggest advantage of all, and certainly the one that lends the highest degree of risk elimination to this project, is no less than COVID-19 itself. Now, my friends, many people make hypothetical claims about how the terror of COVID has created opportunities, but that kind of language is nearly always nothing but marketing hype. Here, it's very real. Why? Well, Darwin's 30 years of experience saved the day, to put it lightly. He was actually scheduled to close the purchase of Oakview much sooner, but when the country shut down in March, his skillful negotiation before and after that point allowed him to press pause on that project because, let's face it, late March and early April of this year was no time to be making big decisions. He was then able to reevaluate the project in light of what's happening in the world post-COVID versus pre-COVID. And best of all, he did the ultimate in really protecting the capital of his investors by negotiating, listen to this, by negotiating a period of 100 days during which Darwin's in-house property management firm gets to completely manage the Oakview property in full, and as a result, they get to see exactly what the absolute reality of the situation is on the ground there, and based on that experience, he's got the option to renegotiate the deal before closing. That, my friends, is astounding. There's absolutely no better due diligence possible than to actually directly manage the property in question for an extended period of time. There will be essentially zero possibility of any deferred maintenance issues being hidden. There's essentially zero chance that the occupancy rate will be less than advertised. None of the details that are so easy to hide during due diligence on a property as substantial as Oakview, none of those issues can take the Darwin German Real Estate Investments team by surprise, because they will have had over 3 months of daily direct management experience of this exact property immediately before closing. My friends, I've been involved in many, many capital raise projects, and I've just never seen a scenario in which it was possible to be more sure or more absolutely rock solid confident in a deal than in this one. And none of that would have happened either without the skillful and experienced negotiation of Darwin German, or without the tremendous pressure placed on the economy and on this property owner by COVID-19. That's how COVID is actually really an overwhelming advantage for us in this case, in the most real sense possible. But even that's not the good news, folks. Understand this. As of this very moment, Oakview already boasts a confidence-inspiring occupancy rate of 91%, and it's deeply profitable. That's before anything is done to the property at all. My friends, in a time of uncertainty and rapid change, what we want is confidence, pure confidence. Confidence comes from predictability. Predictability is knowing with increasing certainty what will happen long before it happens, and that's what we've got with Oakview. A property that's an astounding opportunity, not because of what needs to be done to it to increase its value, but rather a property where the value lies in the fact that it needs nothing. It's already producing astounding returns, and the entire benefit to you as an investor is that we're really capturing our value on the way in by way of an incredibly attractive acquisition price of $48,000 per unit below replacement cost. But it goes deeper than that. In normal times, it makes sense to take more risk. In times of uncertainty, however, risk must be taken far more carefully, with more calculation and more hedging of uncertainties. The very nature of Oakview provides us with just such a hedge. You see, today, none of us really know when there's going to be another coronavirus flare-up resulting in more shutdowns. Thankfully, Governor Abbott in Texas, where this property is located, tends to be resistant to shutdowns. But should that happen anyway, reliance on human capital, which is necessary in practically every real estate project, human capital like contractors and crews and such, well, reliance on human capital represents a distinct point of risk and an exposure that must be minimized while all of this hysteria continues to grip the world. After all, we don't know on any given day whether a contractor or a crew will even be allowed to work. That, my friends, is what Oakview actually offers right now. A project that is ready right now, in the here and now, without need to make a promise of some future hope of improvement. The property is as it should be right now, without relying on contractors, crews, and other large staff that are a point of risk. There are fewer moving parts. That's fewer variables. That's more predictability. That's cold, hard confidence from a great, highly timely asset that's provided with the overwhelming confidence engendered by having Darwin German at the helm, a man whose track record speaks for itself. And I want to tell you yet another reason that Oakview is a source of deep confidence. We've been there and done that already. What do I mean? Well, Oakview is like deja vu for the Darwin German team because it is practically a carbon copy of one of the most popular properties Darwin ever syndicated, called Gold Creek. Many of Darwin's current investor partners deeply wanted to participate in the Gold Creek project, but they didn't get in time because we filled the capital requirements so very quickly, which I expect is about to happen with Oakview as well, as a matter of fact. But why do I say Oakview and Gold Creek are a carbon copy of each other? Well, they are. I mean, Oakview and Gold Creek were built by the same builder, with practically the same floor plan and the same design, even the same furniture in the beautiful community clubhouse areas. The biggest difference? Well, Oakview, the property now available, is 1 year newer, having been built in 2018. And these two properties are so close to each other, only 2.5 miles apart, that the operational and marketing efficiencies to be enjoyed are simply beautiful. So in addition to the raw confidence of having a new project that doesn't rely on nebulous value additions, and in addition to the raw confidence of having Darwin's 30-plus years of experience guiding the project, Darwin and his team also have an even more intense familiarity with Oakview because they already own Oakview's identical twin, Gold Creek, and they're directly managing Oakview as a preview before they even have to close the purchase. It's almost a try before you buy situation. The point is this: they know this property, they know this builder, they know this market, and all of it translates to one thing: confidence. And look, you need not take my word for it on the value of all of these confidence-inspiring characteristics. An article in Self-Directed Investor magazine, a leading magazine for affluent alternative asset investors, had this to say: coronavirus has been a powerful shock to the economy. Savvy investors have returned to a focus on predictability, and they're doing this by following two simple rules. Give yourself plenty of room by focusing on value-based acquisitions, and focus on top quality assets managed by a deeply experienced management team. Frankly, I can't imagine a better description of exactly what Oakview is than that exact quote. As you can see here, Oakview is a simply beautiful property. It is the very definition of a Class A property, being not just new, but deeply desirable in every sense of the word. It has, right now, without any improvements being necessary, all of the features and amenities in demand today. 9-foot ceilings, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, just beautiful attention to detail in every way. That's not to mention the beautiful swimming pool, a private dog park, a community room and social area with pool tables, shuffleboard, free Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, coffee bar, fitness center, and more. It's the kind of place that not only would you and your family be comfortable living there, but you'll also be very proud to say you own a property of this beautiful quality. And I'm not particularly close to the end of the superlatives about Oakview, maybe the largest of which is its location. They say real estate is all about location, location, location. Well, this one couldn't be any better located. Its location is no less than Fort Worth, Texas. You probably already know just how strong and attractive the fundamentals are for that area, because it's made a lot of news in recent years. But just in case, consider these very attractive realities about the fundamentals of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Forbes magazine ranks Fort Worth as the #2 strongest large metro area for job seekers. And last year, in 2019, when national economic expansion was very strong, even then, the DFW economic expansion rate was double the national rate. Furthermore, Yardi Matrix tells us that the area's strong and diversified economy continues to boost multifamily housing. The data is impossible to ignore. Texas's state demographer Lloyd Potter points out something simply astounding. He says, Texas's population grows by an average of 1,000 people per day. And even more astounding, only about half of that is from the birth of children. The other half is from people moving into the state en masse, and Fort Worth is benefiting profoundly from that growth. My friends, the fundamentals, the very strong fundamentals, are firmly in place, not just for Oakview, but for the market where it's located as well. And strong fundamentals mean one thing: confidence. And look, Oakview had to go through a rather rigorous process of evaluation and due diligence long before you ever heard about it. On average, Darwin and his in-house broker, Julian Alexander, they analyze 250 or more projects before finding one on which they can make an offer. It's definitely grueling work, and even harder than looking for a needle in a haystack. It's like searching a haystack for a needle made of pure gold. So the odds are always against any given property matching the standards that Darwin demands. And Julian Alexander is the first line of defense against bad deals. This guy is a dynamo in his own right. Having brokered well over $1 billion in real estate, ranging from single-family houses up to large commercial and multifamily projects, Julian's done it all. He's also served as an educator and mentor to many real estate investors over the years and has his finger clearly on the pulse of what's in demand. But also, he has the experience-tempered wisdom to know what deals should be avoided. Julian filters the vast majority of deals before ever allowing them to take the next step of due diligence. Only after Julian analyzes a project does it pass onward to Darwin. And that's when Darwin does his own brand of intense, take-no-prisoners scrutiny of that project, which has led to an astoundingly strong track record of success in 30 different syndications since 2008. But even then, there's another step. After Darwin's mark of approval, a potential project must still make it through Darwin's executive committee, including not just Julian, but also Brian Holly, president of Darcorp Management, with over 20 years of real estate investment experience himself. Brian runs day-to-day operations for the Darwin team and has long been an absolutely key player. Then there's David Tuttle and Jeremy Walcott, the investor relations specialists with whom you'll work should you be so fortunate as to get a spot in this project. And of course, there's Brian Johnson, Darwin's in-house legal counsel, and finally, Vicki Skidmore, director of property management. Each and every one of these team members brings an extraordinary depth of experience in real estate, and without the approval of this committee, no deal gets through the rigorous due diligence process used by Darwin and his team. And a quick word about investor relations. Should you be invited to get involved in Oakview before it fills, you'll work with David Tuttle and Jeremy Walcott, two top-tier investor relations guys. Their experience is deep, very strong, and a perfect fit to make sure that Darwin's investor partners not only get a great investment result, but that they stay fully informed about the projects into which they're invested every single step of the way. In fact, they make sure you stay informed in two ways. First, each month, investor partners receive a full financial statement and a narrative update about the projects into which they are invested. This is where you'll see something that's a core value for Darwin and the team: aggressive, full disclosure of every relevant fact. With Darwin and team, you simply will not find yourself taken by surprise, because every fact and every reality about your project, whether good, bad, or indifferent, is necessarily and automatically shared with investor partners each and every month in writing. And that's not all. Each month, Darwin and team host live and online meetings, and current and prospective investor partners are welcomed to join. A key component of those meetings is updates on pending and active projects, because again, full and aggressive disclosure is the rule. Now, my friends, a recurring theme today has been the issue of confidence, and I can't think of anything more relevant than that in today's environment of fear and confusion. And here's the harsh, maybe even morbid truth. In evaluating syndicated investment opportunities, one thing you must ask yourself is this: what happens if the guy at the top is, for whatever reason, no longer able to captain the ship? Maybe due to death, incapacity, or whatever. What happens then? Well, here again, what you have with nearly all of those tiny real estate syndication projects across your desk is that the syndicator has not only merely limited experience, usually having run far fewer than 5 or 10 syndication projects, but even worse than that, they have limited resources. They don't really have an investment company. What they have is a syndication or two that they're running, which they hope will pay their own bills. And should an unfortunate fate befall them, there's no clarity, no predictability, and no confidence about what would happen to your money. That's not true for Darwin. There is a clear succession plan in place should, God forbid, anything unfortunate befall Darwin himself. And it's a plan that will leave your capital in the capable hands of the team with whom you're already working, like Brian Holly and David Tuttle, and of course Brian Johnson, the amazing in-house legal counsel and all-around get-things-done guy for Darwin German Real Estate Investments. Bottom line, the management team has real depth, real experience, and inspires real confidence. Now, my friends, we're about to wrap up here. I've got just a few more things to share with you, including some information about what you should expect in terms of returns, along with exit plans, and maybe most importantly, qualifications to participate. And on that last note, I respectfully encourage you to listen very closely, because as I mentioned, there is absolutely a limited amount of capital we can accept on this deal. And frankly, I do not want you to miss this opportunity if you're qualified. So first, what should you expect financially from this project? You will, of course, need to fully review the pro forma and all relevant documentation about the project, but here's the bottom line. Even in the midst of a pandemic, Darwin expects your results to be an effective average of 23.8% or better per year overall during the term of your ownership. Just how attractive is that? Well, my friends, overall, Investopedia tells us that the average long-term annual result for the S&P 500, that's about 8%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, well, it's even worse over the last 40 years, at only about 6.5% return. Even the venerable Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, well, they didn't clear the 10% hurdle average during the first 20 years of this millennium. And look, there are no guarantees in anything, this included. You have every reason in the world to feel profound and deep confidence. And while there are no guarantees at all, you can have overwhelming confidence for this reason. Darwin has a long, consistent, and verifiable history of underpromising and over-delivering. So what's the exit strategy for this project? Darwin expects to quite reasonably increase the cash flow of this project, which is already at a whopping net of over $2 million a year. He expects to increase that net more than 25% to over $2.5 million per year net in 5 years from now. And at that point, the plan is to sell this asset at a solidly increased valuation and at a strong profit, which will then be distributed to the partners just like you, and that will be a very happy day. And my friends, I've got to tell you, again, as an outsider, remember, I'm not part of the Darwin German management team in any way, but as an outsider with a whole lot of experience in real estate syndications, I can tell you this: the capital structure Darwin uses is far more generous to investors than is normal. Darwin is sharing a whopping 85% of the project profits with his investor partners like you potentially. And let me tell you, that's unusual. Most deals I see share no more than 80% and many far less than that. That's a huge factor in favor of this project that you might not otherwise realize independently. Oakview is an investment partnership, and what that means is that a small number of investors place their capital into the fund, and the fund manager, Darwin German and his team, they take care to increase that capital by way of running projects much like Oakview. Each and every month, not even quarterly, mind you, but each and every month, you'll get a statement and a distribution of your share of the income for that month. For the first year, you can quite reasonably expect your monthly payment to amount to a whopping 7% just from year one cash flow. Just from year one cash flow. And as great as that is, it's just a starting point. You see, at the beginning of most new projects, investor partners will get a proportionate share of a huge tax benefit to reduce their income taxes. Now, obviously, you must confirm this with your own tax advisor. And in the case of Oakview, you're going to end up with a year one tax deduction equal to at least 30% of your investment. And frankly, there's a very good chance you could end up being able to deduct the entire amount of your investment in year one. In that case, your income tax bill for this year could drop by $30,000 to $50,000, or you could spread that over multiple years if that's better for you. Point is that along with just receiving your share of the net cash flows each month, you're going to also receive very substantial and very measurable tax benefits from this project in year number one, and then more tax benefits of varying amounts in subsequent years. But as great as net cash flows are, and as great as those tax benefits can be, neither of them compare to capital gains. You see, at some point in roughly the next 3 to 5 years, you'll observe that your monthly check is suddenly much, much, much bigger than normal. That's because Darwin German is not buying Oakview to hold it forever, but with the intention of having a liquidity event within 3 to 5 years. When that happens, you will again reap the direct benefits of being a partner in Oakview, as your monthly check will include your share of the very attractive profits we're expecting under the leadership of Darwin German. And look, I want you to understand something very clearly. This is not hypothetical. Many, many other investors before you have made the decision to trust in the Darwin German real estate team with nothing but high praise for their experience. In fact, take a quick look at this comment from one of Darwin's existing clients who has already invested in 8 different deals with Darwin, and he plans to continue for many years to come.
Hi, my name is Jeff Younglove, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about how pleased we are with our experience with Darwin German Real Estate and the whole DGRE team. My wife Belinda and I have been involved in real estate investing for over 15 years, mainly flipping houses and single family rentals, and we got involved in the multifamily real estate investing with Darwin about 4 years ago and couldn't be happier with the results, not only how the deals are performing, but the team as a whole. Um, in a business that's littered with get-rich schemes and fly-by-nighters, Darwin really and his team really stands above the rest with their transparency and openness to every aspect of their operation, their commitment to maximizing long-term value for their investors, and putting their investors' needs first and foremost, above the rest. We're in 8 deals right now with Darwin and the team, and look forward to continuing that trend over the next 15 years.
My friends, it really says something that Jeff has invested in 8 different deals with Darwin. And what's really astounding is this little statistic. 80% of the people who have invested in one of Darwin's projects are like Jeff, because 80% of Darwin's clients have invested in more than one project with him. So there's really serious potential here. Now, I would love to invite all of you to participate in this project because, as you've seen, it's a really good one. And it's particularly good for the time in which we now live, but I actually cannot invite all of you to participate for 2 very real reasons. So let's transition to the final part of our time together, which is the central question of how to qualify. Well, there are 3 simple standards for qualification. First, you must be an accredited investor. If you know you are accredited, you're golden. If you don't know for sure, you really need not even concern yourself with that right now. Whenever you speak with a member of the Darwin German team, they'll help you figure that out. The second requirement is you must be prepared to promptly invest $100,000 or more in liquid capital. And finally, you need to have a personal conversation with a member of the Darwin German team because, look, you're going to be working together with them for the next 3 to 5 years or even more if you so choose. So it really just makes good sense to make sure you're a good fit for each other. Now, to set up that personal consultation, simply visit the website you see on your screen right now. And in a manner of speaking, there is another qualification, a 4th qualification, which is time. That's because even though this project is worth $37 million in total, the fact is that $23.5 million is already covered by incredibly low interest rate debt and management contributions. Another $6 million is being covered by a highly respected private equity firm that, frankly, their involvement in this project should even increase your level of confidence. You'll be able to hear more about that when you speak to the Darwin German team as well. This is an impressive qualification all by itself, but that's not to mention the $5.5 million or more, actually, that has already been reserved by current clients of Darwin German Real Estate Investments, with more to come without any doubt. So bottom line, there's only availability of $2 million of capital capacity remaining right now, and since we know historically that many people will invest above the minimum amount of $100,000, this translates into a hard maximum of only 10 to 15 remaining openings for additional investor partners like you. And respectfully, my friends, there are many times more people than that who were registered for this webinar, many, many more times than that. So please do take this opportunity to visit the URL on your screen to schedule an opportunity to find out if you're a good fit for the Oakview project. Now, look, I see that we've had some great questions come in during our time together, and I'm about to answer those questions for you. Because frankly, this project becomes more attractive the more you scrutinize it. But first, I want to harken back to a couple of numbers I mentioned to you at the beginning, $297 billion and $1.2 billion, both of which came from an article in the Wall Street Journal. Now, you already know the $297 billion figure represents the amount of money, a record-setting amount of money that was being pursued by investment companies all across America in just the month of April, the first full month of the coronavirus shutdown. Just an astounding amount of money, but it's that other number, $1.2 billion, that you need to understand right now because it relates to the level of urgency with which you need to act. In that same Wall Street Journal article, it was noted that a private equity firm in Florida decided to raise $1.2 billion to respond to the coronavirus. Now, normally they would expect that raise to take 12 to 18 months because $1 billion is a lot of money. How long did it actually take them to raise that money? Well, not 18 months. or even 12 or even 6 months. It didn't take them 1 month. It took them 3 weeks. 3 weeks, my friends. That is the level of urgency, totally appropriate in my opinion, that savvy investors are placing upon the need to very promptly take high quality opportunity when it's presented to them. And frankly, as you've seen and as you'll see when you speak to the Darwin German team and you review all of the pro formas and other documents that they'll provide to you, well, you'll see quite clearly that Oakview is the absolute essence of high quality. And that's why I again implore you now to visit the URL you see on your screen to schedule your appointment with the Darwin German real estate team. There is in fact a very real possibility that you will only end up being able to get on the waiting list for the next project since there's so little space for additional capital. But your best bet is to respond right away, as in right now. Now, a number of great questions have come in during our time together, and I'd like to go ahead and answer those for you now. And a quick note, if you've asked a question and I do not answer it right now, please don't be insulted or alarmed. All that means is that you'll receive a direct reply from the Darwin German team by email very soon. So let's cover those questions now. First question, how do the tax benefits work? Well, they work in the best possible way, automatically. Oakview is an investment partnership, and what that means here is that your job is simply to invest capital as a limited partner. Then Darwin and his team invest and grow that capital while simultaneously handling the accounting and tax matters. And as it turns out, real estate is heavily tax advantaged. I won't bore you with the details, but the bottom line is this. If you invest $100,000, it presently looks like the very lowest tax deduction that you'll receive will be for about $30,000, and it could go as high as all $100,000 of the investment. Of course, you'll have to talk with your tax advisor to confirm how this will impact you, and it will still be a few months before Darwin's team knows exactly how much your deduction will be. But even in the worst case scenario, a deduction of $30,000 is worth a tremendous amount of money. It's like free money that you get just by participating in Oakview with the Darwin German team. Now, the next question is, what is your minimum investment? That's a good question. The minimum capital quality for any investor in Oakview is $100,000. In certain cases, investors prefer to invest a larger amount, and those requests are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Next question is, how much experience does management have? Well, that's a great question. Darwin by himself has been daily involved in multifamily real estate investing for over 30 years. As a whole, the team has over 150 years of investment experience. Julian Alexander, Darwin's primary broker, has all by himself over $1 billion, that's billion with a B, over $1 billion worth of transactions he's put together. David Tuttle and Jeremy Wolcott, the investor relations team, have been at this many, many years. And that's not even to mention Brian Holly, the president of Darcourt Management, who has well over 2 decades of management and real estate experience. Plus, Darwin has run more than 30 different real estate investment partnerships, just like this one. In other words, you're simply not going to find a more broadly experienced team than this one. Next question. Can I invest in Oakview in the future? Well, frankly, the answer to that is no. We have availability for, at this point, less than $2 million worth of capital as of this moment. And my expectation is that that number will be filled by somewhere between 10 and 15 total new investors, which we're really quite confident will happen within a few days. So I welcome and encourage you to reach out right away by visiting the URL that you see on your screen right now. In fact, this reminds me that one of Darwin's existing investor clients gave some advice on this question about the level of urgency you should have. Have a look at this little video clip. It's less than a minute long, and pay attention to what he says about what happens the moment when Darwin announces a new project.
Hey guys, my name's Dana, and I'm a real estate investor and been so for about 17 years. I'm here in Thailand right now. I was working with some clients and having a little vacation at the same time, and got a call from Darwin and the guys at DGRE, and they asked me to do a quick video on just on what I thought about my experience with them. And I got to be honest with you, I've never worked with a more honest, ethical, or a team of real estate investors that not only are they high integrity, but they also do in being highly successful, taking their investors along with them, Their due diligence is impeccable. They're actually quite picky. I think there's some deals they could have done, but they just won't, because not only do they invest their investors' money just like their own, in every single deal, the team at DGRE does invest their own money, and it's very rare. In 17 years, I've never found another company like them. Highly, highly recommend working with them, and if you ever get a chance to invest in one of their deals, don't miss the chance, because I'm going to tell you, the moment they announce it, it sells out really, really quick. So, Darwin, guys, I'm so excited to be a part of things you've done, and wish you nothing but the best in the future, and you are the best of the best.
Okay, that's exactly right, and it's selling out is happening in this case too. Within days, Darwin's clients committed over $5.5 million to this project, and within days of now, the remaining capital availability of less than $2 million total will be taken as well. If you'd like to claim at least $100,000 of that opportunity for yourself, then for your sake, please don't delay. Go ahead and visit the URL you see on your screen right now. Okay, just another question or two. The next question is, how can I get answers to questions about Oakview? Hey, that's an easy one. Whatever you need to know will be in the project documents, such as the pro forma and the private placement memorandum. You can get these documents and all other information you'll need by setting up an appointment with the Darwin German team, and you do that by visiting the URL on your screen. And in fact, you really should do that, because those documents, unlike this webinar, those documents are the final authority on this project. So by all means, reach out to the Darwin German team right now by visiting the web address on your screen. Now here's another good question. Can I meet the management team? Of course you can, by all means. To arrange that, simply visit the URL you see on your screen to make sure that this project is a great fit for you and that you are a great fit for it. And if so, then just tell them that you want to come meet Darwin and the crew, and they'll be delighted to meet you. Now, my friends, I want to respect your time, and we are bumping up against some constraints here. There are a couple of questions still remaining, and I'll make sure that the team at Darwin German Real Estate Investments receives those questions so that they can respond to you directly by email if your question hasn't yet been answered. But I want to close with this. This is a special opportunity, my friends. Strong net cash flow in the here and now. Extraordinary tax benefits. A management team with experience second to none. Not to mention the opportunity to directly manage the property for a full 100 days before closing to identify any issues. Hey, projects like this don't come along very often. And that is, in fact, why there's less than $2 million of capital availability for new investor partners to join us. And if you respond now by visiting the URL on your screen to claim your piece of that opportunity, I suspect you'll end up being just like 80% plus of Darwin's other clients, because once you see how well this project goes, you'll be chomping at the bit to participate in the next one as well. My friends, that's all I have for you today. On behalf of the Darwin German Real Estate Investments team, I am Brian Ellis. My friends, your opportunity is right now.